Today we chat with international superstar Jon Secada, a multi-Grammy winning artist who sold more than 20 million albums, starred on Broadway, and is beloved around the world. His Cuban roots are infused into a life that goes with the flow. Welcome to What the Ish. I'm your host, Patricia San Pedro. Hello, hola, Jon Secada. Welcome to What the Ish podcast.
How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Always good to see you.
Oh, you too. I was just thinking that how life brings us full circle, and we've known each other for decades. I don't want to remember how many.
Well, it's time at this point. For me, time is just it's just a guideline based on so many opportunities and things. So here, luckily we still got health and doing a lot of the things that we still enjoy to do. And feel passionate about. So.
That's a beautiful thing. So, well, everyone knows you, everyone knows about your career. And if they don't, they're probably living under a rock. You've had an unbelievable career, all your Grammys and 20 million records sold and starring roles on Broadway and hits in English and Spanish, which I love. And you're one of the very first bilingual artists to have international crossover success. So very proud of you. Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So I want to, people can see your bio anywhere, but I want to dig a little bit deeper, if that's okay with you, and then we'll end on your ish. How does that sound?
All right.
Okay. So Juan Francisco Secada Ramirez. That is right. You. You were born in Cuba. Would you share a little bit about your early years, how you left Cuba as an immigrant, the challenges that you faced during that time before and once you left and arrived here? Everyone around the world, many around the world, I should say, don't really understand the Cuban experience. And that's something that you and I share. It wasn't easy, but it made us who we are today. So can you share some about that?
Well, I was raised an only child, and so the struggles of seeing my parents having to do what they felt they needed to do. For me, it started, I guess, me being a toddler. So a lot of the things I really do not, at this point in my life, don't have very vivid memories. So that's a part of some of my issues, because there's no timelines, there's no it's become just kind of like this big part of who I am. Nevertheless, it's everything. Everything starts based on the fact that we're immigrants, and just the hardship and the struggle of my parents doing whatever they needed to do, from the point that my father was a political prisoner in the 60s, him getting out, us trying to apply to leave legally at the time, and all those challenges and struggles. We didn't have any family in the States, so back in the early 70s, that was it added as another element as to what to do, where to go, how to raise the money, and how to make the contact to actually eventually buy the plane tickets to go to a country other than the United States that would welcome Cuban refugees, knowing that we did not have any family to claim us. So that was our first path, is to all those struggles and challenges leaving the island, and we found a haven in Spain, in Madrid. Okay. That was our first stop. We were there maybe for a couple of years until my father got an opportunity he wanted better work, better opportunities. And so we got the opportunity. He got started to write to different countries in the consulate, and different countries that will welcome Cuban refugees. And Costa Rica responded him, and he got a visa to go to Costa Rica, initially by himself. Eventually he sent for us in Spain, and we moved. So we lived in Costa Rica for another couple of years. And also always with the vision to want to come to the U.S., but it was we had to do it, I guess, through the back door, so to speak.
Right. What years were those? Around what years were those?
So this is late 60s,
Late
early
60s.
70s. So because we did get the opportunity to come to the States, and that was in and around right at the beginning of 1973.
Okay.
But that's it. It took us a long time to eventually work our way to come to the U.S. and to Miami.
It's, you know, it's incredible. Like I really don't have memories either. I came when I was 4. And my memory of Cuba is my grandmother's house, I think, going down a hill to Miramar, the beach.
Right.
And a ballet dancer, something on the wall of our apartment. But it's a blur, like you said. It's just, I mean, at that age, right? Mm-hmm. We're so young, and when you have children, and to think of what it's like when I guess our parents were in their early 30s, I guess, when they left.
Yeah.
To come to, for in your case, several countries, right? And then end up here, and for mine just to come straight here. My mom spoke English, but my dad didn't. Wow. It's incredible, really, to think about it. It's such a different experience that what a lot of people experience here.
It's a plight of immigrants, and obviously, when you're an immigrant, everybody has a story that deals with their challenges and what those challenges represent, of course. So
once you got here to Miami, I think you went where? Hialeah High?
Well, I was. I had just turned, maybe I was about to turn 13. I was still 12. Okay. So I was set back a year. So I had to do some catch up. So maybe they sent me to what was my last year of elementary school. Immediately I jumped into, obviously, to middle school, and I went to Hialeah Junior. Okay. And did my middle school years there. And yes, and then I transferred to Hialeah High. Okay. So I am a product 100% of, in terms of my childhood, and actually most of my adulthood, my early adulthood, of living in Hialeah. Very proud of that. I love that. La ciudad que progresa, right? Es la ciudad que progresa, ahora y siempre. In English, that means the city that progresses. Always moving forward, and yeah, that is true. Now, did your dad did I read somewhere that your dad had like a coffee shop? Yeah, eventually my parents worked themselves into having just, mom and pa little cafeterias, coffee shops, and they ran them themselves. I helped them as much as I could, especially when I graduated high school, and was entering my college years. I was still very much in tune with my parents' struggles and their need to, to move ahead. And so yes, yeah, I grew up making Cuban coffee and seeing my father cook all kinds of dishes. He was a main cook. That's amazing. What did they do in Cuba? Very different, something very different? Yeah, well, my father, I think he actually he grew up being a businessman in Cuba. He had an oyster stand. Let's see, what they would call it, an oyster cocktail stand. Okay. Opciones, that was his name. Yes. And it was a part of a bar, so it was a whole business venture. Eventually, when he went to prison, he told me that's where he learned how to cook, because then he was assigned to the kitchen. Can you just a little bit, we're not going to get like deep into this, but again, for people that really don't understand this, a political prisoner. Yeah, well, he tried to leave the island in Cuba. When you try to leave the island in the 60s via a boat or a raft or something, back then, if you were caught, you were put in jail. Obviously, you were committing some form of treason based on the Cuban government. Mm-hmm. So he was in jail for 3 years. Okay. As a result of that, of being caught. And so that was, again, I was I was, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 maybe at that point.
Right. So no recollection really of that.
Not really. Except my mother, of course, is just doing the best that she could to hold up the fort, and us visiting my father in prison. He got out, and then we applied to leave, which at the time in the late 60s meant that the head of the family had to go to a work camp, which was another form of prison, actually. So he went to a work camp for another year and a half, as a form of I guess, giving something back to the Cuban state, something of penance,
Right.
So it was, and that was it. That's all I ever. That's what I basically remember. I remember my neighborhood. I remember my friends, but most of all, I just remember the struggle and the hardship, and that separation that dealt with just the minute that we decided that we wanted to leave, just how strange things became in our neighborhood, and eventually when you do decide to leave, just back then, just all your possessions, everything that you own, just being completely everything being confiscated and the whole thing. So it was very, very traumatic.
I remember back then, a lot of people thought that we were going right back. No one thought that we were coming here like for good. So I came with my mom, and my grandparents were already here and my dad couldn't get out. And like 6 months later, he realized that this is not good what's happening here. There was a little confusion in the beginning, right?
Right.
And then when he finally got out, it was like, oh my goodness, but that separation is just, so we can relate when we see things happening around the world now.
Absolutely.
It touches our hearts. So tell me when you started discovering your beautiful voice. How did that happen?
I guess I always knew. I felt that I could sing, especially when I got to the States. I was extremely shy, very introverted, and but there was a sense, something. I had a sense that maybe that I could sing, especially when I by myself, and then where I was in the shower or listening to music. I gravitated the minute I came to the States. Just gravitated towards Anglo music immediately. I was just a magnet attached to all types of form of Anglo music, and being raised in South Florida, even back in the 70s, it was already like the beginning of the beginning of the diversity of what the city represents, and listening to Latin music, Anglo dance, R&B. So I grew up with that. So in high school, though, that's when I really took the plunge.
Really?
One day I decided that maybe I wanted to see if what I thought that I could do, I guess get some type of a confirmation by somebody as to what they thought. So I went into the office of the choral teacher, the chorus room, and I asked if I could audition. To be in the choir? Yeah, to be in the choir, and just to be a part of any and all opportunities that were dealt with being, music, or being a part of the music department. And that was it. That was the beginning, because I got immediately, I felt a vote of confidence and for my teacher. And that's why education became such a big part of my career, I think, because I really, that initial boost of who I am, it was as a result of being inspired and being feeling that confidence, that boost of confidence from a music educator, from my teacher.
How wonderful is that? So you never actually really sang in your house for family or friends?
Nothing. No, not at all.
Wow.
It was a surprise to my parents, of course, once I really started to get into it. And in a way, it was a surprise to myself, because I didn't know how far I was going to take what I was discovering about myself. Because also it was a huge element of self-discovery too.
Right.
And but once I got into it, I got more and more confidence and more knowledge, and then I realized that that's the thing that I thought that this is it. I think music is something that I'm meant to do.
That's so cool. You know, that reminds me of, you know, Emily Estefan. And because she tells the story of how she never sang either in her house. She never did that. And then one day, I don't know if she was 17 or 18, 17, I think, she got up and she spoke to her mom. She spoke to Gloria, and it's like, and I think she sang in front of her, and everyone was like, oh my God, you've been hiding this for all these years. It's amazing, right?
Which is basically, you know, that's interesting. Some of these things eventually get passed on to other generations. Because my daughter, now that she just graduated from University of Michigan with a degree in musical theater, it was kind of like that the same way with her. She danced all her life, but only discovered her love and her passion for other forms of her artistry, maybe when she was in high school, in terms of her singing and her acting. And then it was kind of like that. One day she kind of said, well, I think this is what I really want to do for a living, for a career. And it was very much kind of like Emily. It was a sit down conversation. So sort of.
Oh, funny. And what was you and Mari's reaction to that? Were you happy that she wanted to be in show business, as we say in Miami?
Yeah. No, we were very excited. I was very excited for her, and excited also in the sense that she felt too, and the same way that I did, that she needed and wanted education to be a part of her journey. Mm-hmm. And I told her that it helped, how much it helped me, and how much a difference making opportunity that came to be for me to
right.
My education. And for her, it was the same way. She realized that she needed that too. And now that she graduated and is out working and auditioning and doing her thing, she realizes how important that process was for her as well.
Have you given her, beyond the education part of this, what's your biggest advice to her?
Oh boy, that's a good question, because I'm very cautious. Always have been very cautious, very careful. You know how I talk to Micaela, and but there's been key moments, key points, and I think when I kind of leave it up to her whenever she really feels that she needs a piece of advice or to bounce off something from me. I kind of let her do that. There was some pivotal points that for me was important to let her know specifically what I thought she should do, especially very early.
Creatively?
Yeah, just in terms of her education, there was some key moments that I thought it was specifically that she needed to do certain works, certain things that attached to what was going to become her college career.
Okay.
And so that was, and that's, I remember that the only time there was a kind of a rub between us, because it was, I sat her down and said, I really believe, don't go into this next part of your life without doing this first type of thing. Okay. So
and she listened.
And she did.
Okay. Okay.
And she now 6 years later, 5-6 years later, she realizes that maybe that was a helpful piece of advice. That's
so great. She's following basically in your footsteps, and I have heard some of her, and she has a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
So what is she doing now? Is she performing in anything?
In New York. He just finished a run of a brand new musical called a Crossing, which is actually is based on an immigrant story.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and she just she did that in a theater right off outside of Boston in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Since there was a great run, so she just got back to New York and auditioning and doing things. She's doing something every day, but that's what it's all about. She's living in New York now, so that she's involved in it.
Are you so proud?
I am because she's focused enough at this point to realize exactly what it takes, and she's learning, and she's a sponge to the process now. Every day she's learning. So, and now she's learning as a professional. So,
right, right.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So I want to go back to like the Cuba, because I know that Cuba is infused in your heart and in quite a bit of your music. I remember back several years ago, you did a beautiful tribute to Benny Moré, one of Cuba's most beloved icons. And now, most recently, which, by the way, congratulations on your Latin Grammy nomination for Solos.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
That is so great. You collaborated with the multi-Grammy winner, also Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
Correct. Yes, and it's another project. This is a labor of love. Something that's it was my wish list as an artist for a very long time, and it was. I lucked out that Gonzalo was interested in the project as much as I was. So, and here we are. We're very excited. We're very blessed and humbled that we got nominated for this project. Yeah,
that's so great. Gonzalo, by the way, so disclosure here, because we have a little bit of a, I'm going to say incestuous thing here, but that doesn't sound right. Gonzalo is a wonderful faculty member at jazz faculty member at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami.
Correct.
You are a Frost School of Music at the University of Miami graduate.
Correct. Yeah.
I work at the Frost School heading up marketing and events.
I know.
And I'm a UM grad myself.
Well, there you go. So it's
there you go.
It's all about our alma mater, and I owe a lot to the University of Miami in so many ways. It's the reason that I have a career. It starts with my education. It started with the opportunities that I got there, and my early mentors, Larry Lappin, and so many other great teachers and administrators.
Which program were you in?
Well, I started off as a music education major because I was inspired by my music teacher at first, but 2 years in, I realized that maybe I was antsy to actually be more in performance, and then Larry Lappin started the studio music and jazz vocal degree program. And he recruited me. I was a part already of the jazz vocal ensemble and some other contemporary ensembles, and he recruited me. He knew that maybe that was something that would interest me as a career path. And I switched majors and finished my undergraduate degree with a studio music and jazz vocal degree. And I got the opportunity, also thanks to Larry Lappin, as a result of me wanting to continue my education, to go ahead and get my graduate, my master's degree as a graduate assistant and under his program. So I am a product of the university, and then everybody that I've most musicians and people that I still deal with today is a direct link of that network.
That's so cool.
It is 100%. So
that's so cool. Well, we are very proud of you.
Thank you.
For sure. So you and I spoke briefly during COVID and during 2020 COVID, right? And
right.
I know that it was challenging for you, as it was for all of us. How has that pandemic changed your life, shifted priorities, maybe brought new insights, birthed new creativity?
Yeah, well, the pandemic changed so many things for all of us, right? In my opinion, in some way or another, it's the same way that I think with the same impact that 9/11 changed our lives too. I think this past year, and what the pandemic has represented for the world, instinctively, I think has changed all of us to a certain degree. And then for me, I think it just started with the fact that I had to, we all did, but for me and my family, we just got a chance to spend so much time together, thinking, reflecting living at the house. And my daughter came from college. My son also was doing his schooling at the house, finishing, his high school degree. And so it was a very soul searching time, because we were together, and I think that's what impacted me the most. It was to actually have the opportunity to spend time with my family. It was also challenging because we gotten so used to leading busy lives, starting with myself and all of us in our own respect. But those first few months of the pandemic, it was impossible to actually go anywhere, do anything
Right.
on a normal basis. So that was very impactful for me, to actually reflect, think about life, career, family. But in the end, I think now that I honestly feel that we're right at the brink of crossing over to the other side of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back, I realize how fulfilling that time was too. No, and I wouldn't have had it any other way, to spend time and talk to both of my kids and my wife, and just think about so many things, and make plans, short-term and long-term plans, based on the fact that we just had the time to do so, with no interruptions. And that was a special time, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah. Do you feel, I mean, I know I live alone. So for me, it was like, it was a bit difficult because,
right,
you're alone. Thank God I have a front yard. So I created this Pat's Front Yard Cafe so neighbors would stop by in the front. But I know people that live with their families, they were so grateful in the beginning. And then at the end, they were going, oh my God.
I know. Well, it was frustrating to be, I guess, to have and be in a place and in an environment that you're not able to do what you normally would do. But I think we're coming out of this.
Yeah.
God willing, sooner than later.
I certainly hope so. So can we talk love life now? Yours, not mine.
We've known each other a long time, so there's no need to go there. Absolutely.
No. Because I just love you and Mari, and I would love people to know your history. I had no idea until now that she was actually a choreographer. Tell us how you guys met.
Well, we really got to know each other by working together. We became friends as a part of that, the environment of her working for Stefan Enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
Mari became the executive assistant to Frank Amadeo, may he rest in peace, and worked with him for a long time. And that was right at the height of things happening with my career at the beginning of 1993-ish. Here we go with the issues,
Yeah.
So it was during that time, and 94 perhaps. And so, but our friendship, that's what eventually connected us. And it grew from that, because we would talk, whether it was her and I talking, or with my assistant. It was became like that friendship became the impetus for our personal relationship. And and next February will be 25 years since we've been married.
Oh my goodness.
I've known her maybe besides those 25 years, maybe add another 3 or 4 on top of that. So yeah, I've known Mighty now for a very, very long time. And but it's wonderful to reflect back on all those years, all that time dealing with my career, her being a part of it, and then eventually transitioning into our relationship, us transitioning as parents. Obviously, all those things eventually become like a huge bank of memories, but with no specific timelines. And so those are a part of the issues in my life, because there's no I've never looked at my life in terms of having specific benchmarks. Some of the benchmarks speak for themselves. You know, when I graduated, when I got my master's degree, when my first album came out, and when I got winning, thank God. I mean, my first, second Grammy, the third Grammy, because that's documented. Everything else in between, starting with my relationship, is just a part of this cloud of memories, but with no defined timelines of how things evolve and how they work. I just know that they did, because luckily we were working towards, where there was a personal situation with me and Madi, we were working towards being together. For me, whether it was professional as well, since we were working together, and friends in that element. It was all everything was just happening so quick, because we were so engaged in who we were as professionals, as people. And eventually that transpired into us hooking up, and here we are 25 plus years later.
That is so crazy. I think we met when you just started dating her.
Correct. Yeah. And it was a whirlwind of a time for me, professionally, and for her as well. She was just she became an amazing professional, an executive, working at different enterprises, and so yeah, very beautiful times.
You're so blessed. You know that, right?
I've been very, very blessed. Absolutely.
So 30 years, 30 years since Otro Día Más Sin Verte, One More Day Without You. 30?
Yeah. Next year will be 30 years since that the first CD came out, the first song came out. I can't believe it. It's
how can that be 30 years?
I know it doesn't feel that way. I still, when I look back at my career, since I'm still so engaged and invested into what I do, and I'm still very, very passionate. I look back and it's just again, some of the things that have happened and the benchmarks, they speak for themselves, but everything else is just a part of this tremendous journey that was so much work, and having so much patience, and just living the dream of going after my ambitions. And so it was 30 years. Here we are.
That's so crazy. And here we are. I wanted to hit play because I wanted to hear that song, but I can't, because it will spam us. Even though it's you I'm talking to.
Good.
So couldn't play it. So besides singing, you're an amazing songwriter and producer, and you've worked with lots of people. I mean, including, obviously Gloria and Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin. Do you love that part as much as performing? Yeah,
well, that was a big part of my career at the very beginning, working with Emilio Estefan when he brought me on. And it was, we started working behind the scenes, so to speak. So it was, it was all about songwriting. It was all about production work. He really felt that was really, really important. And I realized how important it was from the get-go. Right. And I'm proud of the fact that that backbone became, again, the reason that I have a career as well. It's just the time that I spent harnessing and working on my songwriting skills, my production skills, my studio skills, and years before. And even when my first CD came out after 5 years in that eventually I started to work and my first CD came out, I still kind of treated my career from the standpoint of just from a workshop element. Studio whenever I could, whenever I was not traveling, being in the studio, doing my demos, doing my songs, just to always being a part of the workshop process of creating music, and that's how eventually, in the midst of my career and as a solo artist, then I got the opportunity to work, besides Gloria at the very beginning, but to work with Ricky Martin, to work with J-Lo, and to work with some other artists. That all that came about as a result of me just, whenever I had a break, I was always back in the studio doing what I started to do, period, which is to write songs, produce, and be behind the board, just to, or behind the microphone, just doing whatever I could do, whether it's as a vocal coach, doing vocal production, or doing production, period, with my co-writers, my co-producers. So, yeah.
It's a great example for musicians, that are now in school, right? Students that are now studying, that to learn all those different aspects of the business, which is one of the things I think that the Frost School is a prime example of. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so proud of the program as it was when I started, and before that, what the program represented. But then the vocational element of the program attached to getting a great education, but that connection, that reality connection with what was always been happening in the real workplace as in popular music, in the music industry. And I think the School of Music, especially anything dealing with commercial music, always had a tremendous pulse as to how to do that, how to connect music, all this education and all this proper education, but how to involve it between the faculty members being a part of the workplace, of the professional workplace, but how to engage all this knowledge so that it really will connect for so many graduates to be great working professionals in the popular music industry.
And be successful.
And be successful at it, correct.
Right. Do you think you'll ever want to, at some point in life, teach?
Oh, I thought about it many times, but I think that I would. It's just that I've never had the time to really sit down and regroup. I did that for a long time, at the very beginning of my career. I taught at Miami-Dade Community College for a long time. I've done workshops at the University of Miami numerous times. I've taught a couple of classes a couple of times along the way over the last 20 plus years or so. And but I've been so engaged in my career, I never really went back and really sat down and said, well, how can I wrap this up in a way so that I can really organize my thoughts and my knowledge and as an educator. Right. But I love it. I love doing workshops. I love reflecting on my career and organizing my thoughts as a teacher, because that's the way that I started. I'm a product again I'm a direct product of the educational process.
I think you'd be a great teacher. So if you ever decide to teach, come talk to us.
Thank you, my friend.
Because you're awesome. Want to mention one other thing while we're here. Do you still have Jon Secada's charities?
I'm still involved as much as I can, if not with my own charity organization, but whenever I'm asked to be a part of any group, if I can be there, I am there. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I've never ever shied away from lending my name, my likeness, financially and artistically.
I love that about you. You won the humanitarian of the Year
Yes.
award from the, what was it, the Muhammad Ali Foundation?
Yeah, the Muhammad Ali Foundation. That was again, I was humbled. It was to receive those kind of accolades for me are very, very, very humbling. And but it's I've always felt that maybe once I did, my career got going and I got more and more popular. I felt it was an extension of being a popular figure,
Yes.
or being somebody in the spotlight, so to speak.
Yes.
Is to give back whenever and however you can.
And I love that about you, because I know you do that. And I think that's so important. You know, I think it's, you know, we have to play it forward and pay it forward.
Absolutely. That's my motto. I agree.
So let's finish off with the ish. Your ish was about timelines and deadlines and
Well, and that's the point that I've never had. Every time that I think back, okay, as to how I got to where I've gotten, again, the benchmarks aside, because then all of a sudden when those things would happen, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's a result of all these other things. But I cannot recall how I got there, because I was working so hard. And then when I have conversations with friends, colleagues, peers, and we start kind of recollecting timelines, no, everything becomes a little bit blurry as to when they happen. So becomes like, well, you know, it was in and around this time, right, when we did this. So then something else would happen. You know, when my first song came out, I remember after a while, I stopped looking at the charts, because all I wanted to do was keep working, keep doing what I was doing, and forget about week by week the documentation of anything. And then when things would happen, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, so this it happened. And then of course, in that the benchmark is set, but everything else in between, my friend, it's all in the wash of like, well, how did I get here? Because I was so busy all the time.
And you're a creative being, I sense. So you're not really about like, do this by this date, do this by this date. That's not you.
I never thought about anything dealing with my career that way at all. And so there's everything is for me at that point, everything is an ish, because I know that in my life, my personal life, you know, how eventually me and Marty got together. Well, it just happened. And things were happening, so many things were happening at the same time. And but I think I like that about maybe my philosophy and whatever work ethic I've been able to put together over the last 35 years, almost 40 years in music, is that I always just kept going. You know, my ambition was always my impetus, but with no specific guidelines or deadlines. I just kept working for it. Even up to the time that Emilio told me one day, which I forgot when he told me, that maybe, you know, some of the songs that we're doing and presenting to the record company, they're not liking, and maybe whenever you want, if you want to move on, you can and do something else. But I just told them, well, listen, if you don't mind, I'll just keep working. You know, and then all of a sudden, as we kept working, it's like, wait a minute, oh, we came up with these songs. Oh, okay, let me play those for somebody else in another label. Oh, they like those songs. Oh, okay. But and then of course I just kept going, because I didn't want to. I just wanted the work to speak for itself,
right, and
everything else to be a part of it. So
that is called living in the flow.
Yeah, and I think that's it. That's and for me, the flow is that flow, my friend, is my ish in my career. That's, but it's been that way always. And then of course there's the payoffs are the benchmarks. I mean, I will say that.
Right, of course.
That's always the fruit of your labor. When specific things do happen that you say, oh, wait a minute. No. Oh, this happening this day. Okay. That's different.
You've led and are leading a blessed life. And I am so happy that you took the time to sit with me and chat. This has been so fun.
Thank you, my dearest friend. I can't wait to see you in and around, of course, our dear alma mater.
Yes, for sure. And I'll be rooting for you and Gonzalo on Latin Grammy night. And
muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Bless you.
You too, my friend. Thanks, Dad.